So I decided to do my infographic on sexually transmitted diseases, and I actually had a really fun time with it, mainly because I love working with graphics and showing visual representations of what I love how different cells look. And I thought this was a really unique aspect to examine different viruses and diseases within pictures. But on the other hand, too, I found it really neat to break down the different types of diseases like chlamydia here that I mentioned, HPV, genital herpes, HIV infection, and AIDS. And once I was doing that, I started breaking it down based off of, the types of symptoms you have and things like that. So to start, chlamydia, it's a bacteria, and it's curable with antibiotics, which is great. It's spread with sexual contact, and males have like a thin discharge, maybe some discomfort and urination. Women, pretty asymptomatic, and people as a whole are pretty asymptomatic. There's two different types of drugs that can treat this, and the funny thing is doxycycline is actually used for acne. So I wonder if that has any crossover. Probably not, but it's kind of cool that so many medicines work for so many different things. And the weird thing is the misconception here is like chlamydia is something, oh, you have chlamydia, like we know you have chlamydia. A lot of people go undiagnosed, so they don't know these things that happen in later life can actually affect them. Like women get, pelvic inflammatory disease, which is caused by this, but they're pretty asymptomatic. Our, I think, common misconception is that all these diseases are going to be out in front and center, much like herpes, where we can see it. That's not always certain. So I thought that was pretty unique. And also the diagnosis is within a urine sample. So pretty easy diagnosis still. And then on the right, I have, the cells of what the bacteria looks like. All right, so moving on to HPV. I remember getting a shot for this when I was younger, before I became sexually active. It's actually Gardasil, which I mentioned here. You're given 3 doses over a 6-period month of time, and boys can actually use it too, which I didn't know. So I thought that a common misconception here was that it's only for girls, only girls can take it. And also another thing, I still can't confirm or deny this. I've been getting like mixed things, which it might be nice if you guys could, post more about this or maybe comment back on this. I've heard HPV is found under male fingernails, and that's how you can transmit it, but I don't know if that's a rumor or something I just had heard. But I'm seeing stuff on both sides, so if you guys have any info, that'd be cool. Also, this can cause cervical cancer. That's what it comes from. In that Gardasil shot, there's 4 different strands that it covers. 16 and 18 are the ones that cause cervical cancer, and the other ones cause genital warts. So there's different strains that cause different things, and you diagnose it through a DNA test. That sounds like Lizzo. Maybe that's what she meant. I don't know. Cultural reference, who knows? But so now with genital herpes, this is a disease of the genital organs, so meaning, the penis, the vagina. That's where these little bumps are coming around the vaginal lips and, like I said, the penis. Also, they can have other symptoms like urination that's painful or headaches. There's not really a known drug that cures the virus. Once it's in the body, it's in the body. So you can have outbreaks at any time. Another kind of rough thing I've heard that we actually read, is that they are constantly trying to find all these new treatments for it, but once it's in the blood, it's in the blood. You're already infected. There are a few drugs that treat it that I listed below, and it's really sad to me that also you can pass it to babies. I actually knew a girl growing up, and that happened to her, and she had outbreaks here and there. And it was really kind of sad, and I know there's kind of definitely some social stigma saying, people that are constantly having sex are going to get all these diseases, which might have some truth, but also if you have sex one time, you're going to get it. Condoms do help with that, but it doesn't prevent it. And also, if you have sex and you do get a transmitted disease, saying that, calling words like, slut or whore are on the opposite end. I still haven't found a word for the male version of that, but they're kind of associated with that and being sexually promiscuous. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But last, I thought HIV infection and AIDS was kind of neat because right now we're in the middle of a pandemic, and this was kind of the last little freak out, which actually Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx right now are working on coronavirus, but they used to work on HIV AIDS and all that stuff involved. I just thought that was really neat. And basically, the first outbreak and Fauci and Birx were involved in this, it was in the gay community, which there is definitely a stigma both for the gay community and also African American community, that they essentially all have AIDS, which I think is pretty disgusting. But also, if you are going to have same-sex sexual intercourse, there is a higher chance if you're a male with a male you will get it. That's where most of the cases come from on the male side. But HIV does stand for human immune deficiency, and it's not always, so HIV is the infection, the virus you get, and it can turn into AIDS, which can kill you. Basically, the disease is contracted from your damaged immune system, are often what kill people. So things like pneumonia, stuff like that. I don't know if anybody's ever watched the Dallas Buyers Club, but basically they're going to find a cure, and they're looking for all these different things. And basically he has AIDS, and there's a few people in the AIDS that have movies, or oh my goodness, there's a few people in the movies that have AIDS, and they have to come up with all these different types of ways. Well, they thought that, I remember my mom saying this because I asked her about this. They thought that it was originally coming from water fountains. So this was a huge misconception that you were going to get it if you drank from a water fountain. So nobody would drink from a water fountain for like a long period of time until they realized it was actually transmitted through semen, vaginal secretions, the cervix and vagina, and also bodily fluids like blood. So things like blood sisters, that was no longer, that became kind of more of a stigmatized thing, like don't do that, you'll get AIDS. Also, it's spread through sexual intercourse and contaminated needles. So people that are in the rock community often developed AIDS because of contaminated needles. I've heard scary things like tattoos, but I don't know if there's anything to that. And then also, like I mentioned, infected women can also give it to a baby during childbirth. It's possible that they won't be giving it to a baby if it's not during an outbreak, but most often C-sections are performed to avoid that. I think a really common, so as far as treatment goes, I think a really common misconception is if you get HIV, AIDS, you will die. It's not the case. Magic Johnson was one of the very first people that got it. He's been living for a very long time, basically because of what's called a drug cocktail. So there's antiviral drugs that help. I think it's called Azidatha. No, I'm not going to even try it. The AZT drug. So basically that and a few other ones, they take them together because certain drugs can stop working after a period of time, which makes sense because our body builds up an immunity to them. I don't know if that still works, though, with HIV, because obviously your body's getting rid of immunity, or your body doesn't have much of an immunity, so does it still? I don't know. But basically, this prevents these viruses from spreading and turning into AIDS, which can kill people, but it doesn't repair the already damaged. It doesn't repair the already damaged cells, which is kind of rough, so your immune system is going to be shot for basically the rest of your life, which is really disappointing. But I also kind of was looking around for some research on things to do with HIV AIDS. I think it's really helpful to go to, different government websites because they have all the statistics. The CDC has great stuff. I found this one for the U.S. National Library of Medicine. It's called Medline Plus, and so it takes you through all the basics, research and resources, different summaries if you want to read up more about it. They even have videos if you're symptomatic. That's definitely something, but I think it's important to remember out of all this, the smartest thing you can do is try and use as much protection as possible. Condoms were mentioned quite a few times within chapter 18, and I think that's definitely something that we should be thinking about. It definitely was pushed really hard in the 80s and 90s, and I think we've kind of lost that. I mean, there's 1.2 million people that died or that got HIV, and then 660 million people that actually died from it. So if you're looking at numbers, currently, as of today, this is more of a problem as far as deaths go right now than the coronavirus, which is super scary. We should be focusing on having safe sex if you're going to have it. If not, don't have sex if you're that scared, I guess. But definitely be asking your partners, be testing, things like that. And yeah, that's my little infographic on sexually transmitted diseases.